As we mentioned, let's start with National Signing Day and the recap. Jeremy, your reaction when Harold Perkins decided to join LSU?
I was extremely shocked. That was one of all the guys. I thought, man, he's probably taking his talents elsewhere, but just a huge position of need. Now, I know I don't like doing it, but I think with this kid, you can plug and play this guy. Like, you put him in the middle of that defense and you let him run sideline to sideline and really just be a player. Him and Baskerville next to each other, I can't wait to see that combo. Those two guys playing the linebacker position, the position of need that we really couldn't really point to too much guys, especially if Baskerville left. Now you got probably the best linebacker in the country coming to play on this defense. I know that's what he said yesterday. He has aspirations of being a freshman All-American and doing some great things early on here, and that's one kid I would not doubt because he's extremely talented.
Interesting recruitment with Harold Perkins. Kind of vocal. Obviously committed to a different school less than a month ago, and it just kind of it took these turns that I just was not expecting. When you hear the interviews that he gave where he said LSU wasn't really recruiting him as hard as they should, or that he hadn't ever met Brian Kelly, or like some of this stuff is just a little bit odd. And then they do get him on campus for that official visit at the end, because obviously things had kind of fallen through at Texas A&M one way or another, and LSU's able to make it happen. And it's just not one that I expected as of 2 weeks ago for sure, just based on what he had said in his interviews. But Shea Dixon says this all the time over at Go247. Go by what they do as opposed to what they say. And yeah, he did say that he thought LSU should be coming at him harder. He did say that he hadn't met the coaching staff, whatever. But he did go to Baton Rouge the last weekend of the visiting period, and that obviously was enough to seal the deal. There was thought that he and Jacoby Matthews were going to be a package deal. At the end of the day, Jacoby Matthews decides he's going to go to College Station, Texas. We'll have plenty of thoughts on that moving forward. But it capped what is a pretty stout signing class in terms of quality that LSU has brought in Brian Kelly's first year. When you talk about Harold Perkins, who's the best linebacker in the country, who many people say would be a five-star running back if that's where he was coming from as well. And they said he's the best running back in the state of Texas. That means a lot. Will Campbell, who is a big-time player, a top-5 lineman in the country, five-star depending on where you look. Walker Howard, among the most talented quarterbacks in the country. Quincy Wiggins at 6'6", 275 pounds on the edge. That's a pretty talented dude as well. Emory Jones signed back earlier on the offensive front. So it's a class that's got a lot of top-end talent in it, and you add in to that the top-end talent that comes in to add some depth, and you look at the guys that they brought in that are ready to go from the transfer portal. Things are a lot better than they were, January, whatever was 6th when LSU played in the Texas Bowl.
Yeah, it's night and day. And I think for me and a lot of Tiger fans, you kind of had some cause for concerns when you get a new coaching staff, especially that first year in recruiting. But I think Coach Kelly really had this thing planned out. He knew everything he needed to do along the way. And I think for number one, like he always said, he wants to get the guys who are already committed to LSU to stay with LSU and continue to want to go to this great university and be fighting Tigers. And he did an excellent job of that. You like you say, you keep Will Campbell, you keep Walker Howard, you keep some of these guys at the top of this class from the state. You keep those guys committed, and then you start doing the work you have to do in the transfer portal, which he's done a great job and just put this team top 3 in the rankings in that regard as well. And then you continue that with having a big signing day, getting the best linebacker in the country. I think he's done a tremendous job. And so now you look at this roster compared to, like you said, January 6th, looking at the bowl game. Now you got some talented pieces, especially some talented young and older pieces who have experience at the college level, and some young, hungry freshmen who want to come in and prove themselves as well. So this team is going to look a lot different than it did in that bowl game.
As you look to the freshmen who have signed in these two classes, who do you look to outside of Perkins, who you just mentioned, that you think may have a significant role on next year's team? And that doesn't mean be a star on the team. It may mean, playing a healthy amount.
I think Will Campbell. I think you look at this offensive line. I know you're getting Cam Wire back, but to me, just watching how developed he is already, knowing that's a position of need with offensive line, with not really being able to point to 5 guys that are going to start right instantly, I'm going to be looking for Will Campbell to really be playing early on here.
I looked towards the two corners that signed early in LaTerrence Welsh and Jordan Allen. And Jordan Allen lists as a safety some places, DB either way. And Welsh is a 4-star, one of the top 20 corners in the country, depending on where you look. And I look at what they've brought in, and yeah, there are a lot of guys in the transfer portal that I think are going to play huge roles with obviously with Fouché and the guys that they've brought in, Gardner. But I think in the defensive backfield, as many guys as you need to play out there in today's era of football, I would look towards the corners in this class that may get a chance to play. That's a position we've seen freshmen play at LSU for a long time now. You see a lot of freshman running backs get out there. You see a lot of freshman wide receivers. You see a lot of freshman DBs because they're playing on the perimeter on the outside. Really tough for a freshman quarterback to come in and play. Really tough on the offensive and defensive fronts because of just how physical the game's got to be in there. But you've got to be physical on the outside too. But get that quick twitch, that speed, the range of motion, all that kind of stuff. That to me is an easier way to the field. So I would kind of look at the corners.
Yeah, no, you can always look that way. I think with the guys you brought in with the portal, I think those guys are probably going to get a better opportunity to start early on. They're probably when you trot the ones out there, I'm pretty sure a lot of those guys are going to be out there just based off of the scholarship guys we have on the roster right now. And the freshmen will definitely have to learn the defense and learn some of those things. But I would love it if you can get some production from some freshmen cornerbacks, especially just looking at how this thing's playing out. Now you got some guys who are veteran that you can mix, and you can run some 6 or 7 DB packages out there. So before, just looking at it with 2 scholarship cornerbacks on the roster, you thought that'd be out of the realm of possibility. But now you got a lot of bodies in that defensive back room, a lot of talented bodies, I would say. So you got a lot more options on your hands now.
So here's how the numbers work. LSU had obviously a mass exodus of transfers out. That number is capped at 7 when adding back in. So 25 you can sign. You could add 7 more for a total of 32. LSU has brought in 15 signed letters of intent from high school players. They have added another 12 from the transfer portal. That is, of course, 27. So you've got 5 more spots to bring in the spring. So I think that that's clearly going to be something that this staff is going to be focused in on doing. And I think that probably happens more than likely in May and June when spring ball ends. Everyone around the country kind of knows where they stand. I wouldn't be surprised at all. In fact, I would expect some people to transfer out of LSU this spring. That happens just about every year. Now there's no penalty. That's going to happen. But you're going to be able to bring in 5 more guys. And I think that they'll have a keen eye on linebackers. I think they'll have a keen eye on offensive linemen. I think defensive back for sure as well. The only place where I feel like they're pretty comfortable, I don't think running back's a huge need, and I don't necessarily think wide receiver is a huge need unless people start leaving, which is very, very possible. As you've mentioned, you kind of see it that way?
Yeah, I definitely see it that way. There's going to be some guys from this roster who probably after spring ball and they kind of see, where they're going to be on the depth chart, they're probably going to take their talents elsewhere. But with that same regard, it's going to be that way across the country. So you're going to have another pool of kids in the portal that you're going to be able to recruit and choose from. So having the 5 scholarship, I think, gives you a ton of flexibility that you really need because some guys may have a significant injury that you thought would be playing in spring ball, and you may need to fill another position. So now that you have those scholarships, you have that extra wiggle room. You can kind of add and plug and fit where you need positions of need.
And tight end, I think, is another position where maybe 2 guys they need to bring in at the tight end spot just because they're very skinny there. They've got to bolster the depth there at the tight end slot.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.